I've got to be outside. If it's not hunting, it's gardening. If it's not gardening, it's mushroom hunting. I've got to be outside.
On the Gihring family farm in southeastern Missouri,
I like making use of natural resources.
homegrown is preferred.
We have poultry. We do the chickens for eggs and occasionally meat. Mark does lots of gardening. Broccoli, cauliflower, onions, corns, potatoes, tomatoes.
For 6 to 8 weeks every winter, they pair up with Mother Nature for another treat from the land that sweetens more than their meals.
It looks good, nice and golden.
Mark and Crystal Gihring started tapping their sugar maple trees.
When I was pregnant with my daughter,
I looked around and figured out we had lots of maple trees. So I bought 20 of the old-fashioned spiles that drip into the buckets and started from there.
As time passed, they upgraded equipment, added taps, tubing, and kids. 19 years later,
Grab line. We're up to 801 taps this year, if my son's counting is correct.
the nightly freeze, daytime thaw pattern in Missouri winters brings a surge of sap.
Look, saps are flowing.
And hard work.
I do about everything we do around here. I'll help do it. It's fun though, a lot of time out in the woods and stuff.
That seems to be a common theme on this farm.
I like going out in the woods and then doing taps and stuff and carrying the bucket for my dad when we're tapping, and just like to be outside.
And when the sap's flowing, that's exactly where they have to be.
It's almost like having dairy cows. When it's time to milk the cows, you've got to milk the cows. When it's time to collect the sap and cook the sap, you've got to cook the sap.
Also, like milk, sap spoils. Not to mention, if you don't collect it fast enough, these totes can overflow.
I know they say not to cry over spilt milk, but I will cry over spilt sap.
hopefully it gives them some work ethic too, because there's going to be times in life where you just have to stick to it and get it done and know that it will end and be over and you'll have something to show for it.
That's about it.
It takes about 50 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of maple syrup.
You remove the water, you get the syrup. It's a very primitive process. I think that's part of what I like about it too, is the simplicity of it.
If you're here for maple sugar programming, if you can gather around.
The Missouri Department of Conservation recently demonstrated that primitive process of 3-kettle maple sugaring.
This one can burn very easily.
At Rockwood's Reservation in St. Louis County.
Most people don't know anything about how maple syrup is made, and it's really interesting, so they're here to learn about that.
It's been around for a very, very long time. I think a lot of people don't know a lot about their resources, so it's just one of those other aha things.
Maple sugaring was widespread in Missouri before people had easy access to cane sugar. Historic records tell of Native Americans tapping trees. Meriwether Lewis even journaled about the Corps of Discovery maple sugaring in Missouri before setting out on their expedition.
And that, to me, is incredible. They were over there later in February doing the same thing over 200 years ago.
It's good.
It's not just Missouri's Department of Conservation reminding people of the maple tree's potential. MU's Extension Office recently released a report and resources to put maple syrup on the map in the lower Midwest.
In Missouri, typically, if you're a landowner and you have forested property, maple trees have typically been kind of a nuisance because you're looking to grow oaks or hickories, something that can produce a pretty reliable source of income through hardwoods or this or that. And so maple trees have typically not been part of that conversation, but we're trying to change that. We also found that folks are selling at a premium here. There's really high demand and not enough supply. So I think all of those things point in a good direction if you're interested in getting into it.
There is your factory that's turning sunlight into the pancake topping.
When Mark Gihring isn't making maple syrup,
And as the season progresses, the chemistry in the tree is changing.
he's a high school science teacher, often leading field trips through his backyard.
To see the kids take an interest in it, I found over the years as a science teacher, When you get the kids' attention is when you make it real to them.
Several of his students are now also making maple syrup.
It's neat to see that. It's really neat to see them take off. Sometimes I worry about the competition because some of these kids are pretty motivated, but
Maple syrup may not be the most lucrative homegrown product.
you don't make big money at it. That's for sure.
But the Gihring family's profiting from it.
You know, when we started tapping years ago, about 12 years ago, that tree over there was the same size as this one is now. It's grown a little bit, hasn't it?
In much sweeter ways.
In another 12, 15 years, when you're taking this over, this one will be as big as that one. When you have the experience, the time with the kids, the time in the woods, makes it all worth it.
Oh, wow.